Have you ever wondered why Tupac didn't care that Biggie came to the hospital after he was shot, after Tupac's father told him that? People always mention it, but they fail to give you the timeline as to the reason. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button notification. Also, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And like I always say, if you want to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of the Straight Game, please do me a favor and hit what appears to be that little bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to my attention that Tupac knew that Biggie had nothing to do with shooting him, despite Tupac going after Biggie so hard on wax and in the media, if you will, right? So the question that I have to ask, was Tupac being disingenuous, or was he being a master marketer, if you will, or practice, or should I say practicing a master technique in marketing and promotion, right? And I would have to say it was a little bit of both, right? But I can understand, as I've done videos before on the situation, why Tupac was mad. But the fact that Tupac was told, I'm going to give you this timeline that'll help you understand this, because nobody's ever really broken this down before. And this is going to be the first. Check this out. So you got to understand, when Tupac was in the hospital recovering, you know, the paranoia, the stress, you know, wondering if you're going to live or die, you know, from that perspective. So what you're thinking about is the things that played on in your mind, you know, going into the studio, you know, after you've been shot, seeing all of the people there, and you wondering, well, did they have something to do with it? Did they know about it? And so on and so forth, right? So from there, you dealing with this situation involving going to court for this trial. You know, all of these things are happening at once, if you will, right? And you got to ask yourself, as a normal person, how did Tupac even digest that? You go into court for something you know you didn't do. All of a sudden you get shot, right? And you're dealing with that situation. So now, this is the first time that Billy Garland is seeing his son after 15 years, if you will, right? Going to the hospital. At the same time that Billy Garland is seeing his son, here comes Biggie after Tupac was shot in the hospital, right? Now Tupac is recovering. You know, the last thing on anybody's mind is telling Tupac that Biggie came to the hospital. Biggie wasn't the Biggie that we all knew, you know, the life after death Biggie, the, Ready to Die Biggie album out, popping and all of that. He was just basically a friend coming through. And so we got the information firsthand from somebody who actually talked to Biggie when he came through, and that was Tupac's father. But you can imagine at that particular time, the last thing on, from what I understand from talking to Tupac's father, the last thing on his mind was to tell Tupac that Biggie came, you know, to see him in the hospital and so on and so forth. At that particular time, Billy Garland didn't even really know who Biggie was from that perspective. You got to understand that. So now Tupac's recovering, dealing with that situation, right? And so when Billy Garland finally does get a chance to tell Tupac, once again, now Tupac has been convicted of those charges, or that situation in New York. He's been convicted. And now when Billy Garland finally gets a chance to talk to Tupac, he's now in a maximum security prison. So now are you not only dealing with the fact that you was just shot. Now you've been convicted of this situation, and now you've been shipped off directly to a maximum security prison. Your appeal has been denied, because they filed for, like I said, an instant appeal. Once he was sentenced, they, filed the motion for the appeal right away, and the judge denied that, right? So you can imagine what was going on through Tupac's mind at that particular time, So now, you go to Dannemora, and now you relayed to through your publicist that you want to see your father, who you just found out who your father is from that perspective. And so once Billy Garland goes to Dannemora, he sit down and he basically says that he had ran it past Tupac that Biggie had came to see him in the hospital when he had first got shot. Now, the last thing on Tupac's mind, and mind you, you got to understand something. At this particular time, they hadn't, before Tupac, after he was sentenced, right after he was sentenced, they dropped Who Shot You, right? So up until that point, Biggie was in good standing, right? I don't think Tupac was really mad or anything like that. He came to the hospital, right? But what was it, 3 days? 3 days after Tupac had been sentenced, they dropped Who Shot You. That was the thing that changed the dynamic of the relationship. It was Who Shot You. Because before then, as Mr. Garland had said, Biggie came to the hospital, proving that, I'm here for you, let me know if anything I could do, and so on and so forth. But 3 days after that situation and Tupac being sentenced, 3 days after his sentencing, they dropped Who Shot You. Right? So now, by the time Billy Garland gets up to Dannemora, Tupac's sentenced, at the jail that he's going to do the majority of his time, been denied appeal and all of that, right? And so Billy Garland said they sit down and talk, and he runs it past Tupac that Biggie had came to the hospital.
So with that being said, did you ever get a chance to tell Tupac that Biggie had came to the hospital and visited him?
I think I did, yeah. And when I went to Dannemora, yeah, I think I did. But I don't think that was the conversation, that we were really talking. We were talking about so many other things. His mother, this and that, how you doing, Pops, and shit like that. You need this and that.
Now, if you have all the information that Tupac had at that particular time, are you thinking about whether Biggie came to the hospital or not after they just dropped Who Shot You? And in Tupac's mind, that song was about him. You couldn't tell him nothing else in regards to that. Even if it was from Biggie's or Puffy's perspective or not, Tupac, and as an average mind thinking like, what? Like, who shot you? Like, what do you mean? And that Tupac is going through this thing about what happened and so on and so forth, because he said he was communicating with Biggie and trying to figure out what happened, who shot me, and so on and so forth. That's actually on tape.
And I was seeing niggas plays, he was hugging me, Pop, think you was the only nigga that woo. But he told me, like, about a week before I got shot, he knew the nigga that was shot me, and he was like, Pop, don't hang around this nigga, we walked in with the nigga that shot me, that ended up shooting me. He's like, Pop, don't fuck with this nigga, because I knew the nigga too, he was my Cody fan. And I was like, what you mean? He's like, I'll talk to you about it later, and we didn't talk. The next time I saw him was at the studio where I got shot. So I knew he knew what happened. So I was like, Biggie, what happened? He kept sending me messages like a bitch, like, I'm gonna come see you. No, nigga, what happened?
Right? From Tupac's own mouth. And so now they drop Who Shot You. Billy Garland tells him Tupac's not really caring about that right now. So you got to understand the fact that Tupac knew whether Biggie came to the hospital or not it didn't even matter, because he dropped Who Shot You. And Tupac felt like that was an ill-advised move, and that, Biggie should have exercised more restraint. But we understand in the music industry that it's not up to the artist as to what they're going to do, because you're under contract. And till this day, Who Shot You is one of the Biggie's most biggest songs, if you will, because it kind of shed a light on, that whole situation and gave him kind of a buzz. Tupac responded to that, and so on and so forth, right? So now, it didn't really matter. Yeah, from Mr. Garland's perspective, Biggie did come to the hospital. Biggie didn't really have anything to do with that, from what Mr. Garland had explained, by him coming to the hospital by himself, right? But on the other hand, he dropped "Who Shot You?" And so when he did that, that changed everything for Tupac, because it was like somebody was kicking you when you were down. Somebody you had helped and lifted up when they were down. And so Tupac felt like Biggie should have exercised more restraint in regards to that situation, if you can understand that. So on one hand, yeah, Biggie did come to the hospital, trying to say, see what he could do and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, Tupac was asking him what happened, and so on and so forth. Biggie wasn't really giving him the answers that he wanted. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he drops "Who Shot You?" So you can understand the contrast between the two and why Tupac felt the way that he felt, and felt like he should handle it the way that he did when he got out of prison. Even in dealing with Hit 'Em Up also. So if that can help you understand, because a lot of people, when they talk about this, they don't talk about the timeline and how things actually transpired. So yeah, they said, Tupac knew that Biggie didn't do nothing because Biggie came to the hospital. Yeah, but he never really got a chance to talk to him one-on-one from that perspective, right? And when he did get a chance to talk to him, he was asking Biggie what happened, and Biggie wouldn't say anything. Whether Biggie knew something or not, totally different subject, but he wouldn't say anything. And then all of a sudden, Tupac gets sentenced. A couple days after he gets sentenced, they drop "Who Shot You?" So you can understand why it was what it was. And that's the reality of the situation. That's not somebody just saying something based on how they feel. That's the actual timeline of what happened and the events that occurred that made it what it was. Your boy DELRAY, Straight Gang.